Maura, you got so many stories with the ESPYs. Can you tell any of them? Are you sworn to secrecy? You are?
Well, professional code of secrecy.
You name, okay, without naming names, your favorite. Who's the worst presenter?
I'll name a name.
Okay.
Dan Patrick.
I was?
You were so much trouble. Oh, my God.
How was I trouble?
You don't remember?
Was this when I was doing it with Bill Murray?
No, I didn't do the show then. No, it was when you were doing it with Keith and we had Josh Charles and Peter Krause playing you. And I mean, it was a poorly thought out idea, I will grant you.
We had a couple of poorly thought out
they were poorly thought out skit. No, it was you and Keith. Yeah, it was you and Keith. So I guess I can't blame you totally.
You can if you want.
No, I think that Keith was. I have a couple voicemails saved of Keith's.
Oh, you do?
God love him.
I told the
God love him.
I told the Ken Griffey story.
Oh my God! Yeah.
When he showed up at the ESPYs, he wanted to have all of his home runs edited together.
Clipped together.
Yes,
all of them.
And it's 500 and some, I think, at the time. He wanted it for his mom, and then he wanted a suit.
Well, yeah, that was at like midnight the night before the show. We weren't sure. He was the All-Star game was in town that weekend, so we had done 3 days of trying to go get him to convince him to come. Went to the All-Star Cafe used to exist and went there, and so I got a call at midnight the night before, and it was Ken Griffey Jr. who said, I need a suit. I don't have a suit. And I was like, okay. Does that mean I have to get your suit? And he's like, yeah, I need a suit. So I said, well, all right, let me call you back. So I didn't know what to do, so I called Howard Katz and woke him up and said,
senior management mothership.
President, he was the president. I said, what do I do? Ken Griffey Jr. needs a suit. He's like, get him a suit. And I was like, all right. So I gave him my credit card, met him in the lobby of the hotel and was like, here's my credit card.
At night?
Yeah, that night. Go get a suit tomorrow. And he had a nice suit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Expensive one.
A very expensive one. I got the bill. There were some other things on the credit card that I wasn't prepared for. Restaurant visits, or should we say, entertainment clubs in New York.
Adult entertainment.
Maybe.
Wow. Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Or maybe not.
Maybe
Who
not.
knows?
Could have been McDonald's.
Tougher dealing with the athletes or celebrities at the ESPYs?
Well, the athletes, I think people don't realize that, to be an entertainer, you probably played to an empty room at some point, in your life. And they also are really big fans of the athletes. So the ones that come are really excited to be there. The athlete side, unlike the Oscars or the Emmys, where, winning one actually helps your career, the ESPYs, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
We really had to build it into something that was a night that the athletes valued, that it was something that, now there are athletes, the ESPYs are in 25th year coming up, which blows my mind. So there are athletes who have been, alive only when there's been an ESPY, right? But that wasn't the case when we started it. And it was like, come down to this award show that we created and that you've never heard of before. So it's been a really slow building process. But
I remember Bill Murray hosting.
No, he didn't host. He did the opening number.
Oh, he didn't host. Oh, he did the
Right.
opening number.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're backstage the day before, 2 days before, and it's just a group of people. So it's Bill and his writers.
Right.
And
This was before my time.
And John Walsh, who
Oh, yeah.
was the guy who created SportsCenter. So John is there, and I'm there with Chris Myers and me. So Bill said, I want you guys in there. So we're talking idea. Here's one of the great comedic minds of all time, and he's actually listening to us as we're trying to help him with his opening skit. Somebody fires up a joint.
Oh.
So then it starts getting passed. My boss is handing me the joint. Now, John didn't smoke. I didn't either. But
Did you inhale the...
Oh, I secondhand
Okay.
smoke, absolutely. But I'm going, I got my boss here, Bill Murray, and Bill didn't smoke either. I guess some of these writers, that's their creative juice or something. And I went, the ESPY sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of fun with Bill Murray.
I would love to get Bill Murray back this year with the Cubs. I mean, maybe it's the year that he comes back, right?
He could present them.
Oh, yeah.
Team of the year.
Well, if they win, it's voted on by fans.
Oh, it is.
I
Of
really
course it
wish
is.
that it is. It is. Believe me, my job would be so much easier. There's one story that is one of my favorite stories, and one of my favorite presenters is Will Ferrell. A couple of years ago, we wanted him to come out and accept as Tiger Woods. Do you remember that?
No.
He came on stage. Well, you should look it up because it's very funny. He came out and accepted as Tiger Woods, and he was, I'm Tiger Woods. And thanked all these sponsors that he made up. And that was the same thing that you're talking about. Literally, he showed up and said, "What am I doing?" And he was going on in 10 minutes. And I said, "I'd like you to go out and accept as Tiger Woods." It's like, all right, and went downstairs and came up with a whole bit in like 5 minutes, went out, and it's one of the best things.
He had 10 minutes to prepare.
Oh, yeah, completely. What am I doing? And then it's just magic. So
Plus, he's awesome.
he could read the phone book. And
He's Will Ferrell. She's Maura Mandt, the co-director and producer of the Ben Simmons documentary, One and Done, airs tonight on Showtime at 9 Eastern. Who approached who?
We were approached by Ben and his family.
And what did you ask for?
Access and honesty.
Now, was there anything that was going to be off limits?
No, I mean, there were some limitations of some of the basketball stuff at LSU that, we had, but from Ben, no.
We've seen some headlines here, and I don't know if they're taken out of context. I did watch the documentary, but Ben rails against the NCAA, saying it's the NCAA, they're effed up.
Right.
Now, is he referring to the one and done?
I think
or is there something else?
There are a couple places where he reacts to the system and the NCAA, and I think what's important, and hopefully people do watch and see it. Our intention for this documentary was to, you mentioned John Walsh, and John Walsh is in my head all the time. Find a journey, get access, and discover something. And that's always the goal, is to be let in on a process that normally people aren't let in on. And this was a very fascinating year in a young man's life. It was going to be pivotal one way or the other. And it wasn't just Ben that was going to go through it, it was his family. And so the access to that was, let's go through this from Ben's perspective.
And just so people know, from Australia, his dad was a basketball player in Australia. Then he goes to, last year in high school,
Mount Bird, great school. He went to play for Kevin Boyle, who's coached a number of number one picks in the last 10 years. So
then he goes to LSU.
Then he goes to LSU.
His godfather is
David Patrick.
Is one of the assistant coaches.
Assistant head coach there. Yeah.
Yes.
So in being in that journey and being in the moment as much as we could, we were there when Ben experienced frustration. So the times when what you're reading about now, and I've seen a lot of the headlines where he's, the F word is one. You can't probably say it on TV.
No.
I won't. It's going to get a headline. But that was a very much in the moment reaction to something that, he was doing at the moment. So that was against the NCAA and certain regulations that he was limited to, whether that be who could buy him a meal or, he'd be running out of money, going to Walmart to buy something. And it's that juxtaposition that he's not allowed to take a pair of shoes and the family has to keep track of receipts while at the same time he's passing his jersey being sold or a billboard that's saying, LSU number 25.
Did he not have friends?
He did have friends. That was a very unfortunate headline in a story. He had great friends on the team. That, again, was not a focus that we did. It's not a story about LSU, but he had great roommates, great friends. What he was saying, again, in a moment was that in the position that you're in, you look at someone who's on TV, on SportsCenter, or in any position, and you think, God, that's the life, like everything's perfect. Well, no, they go through the same things and sometimes more magnified than anyone else does. And for Ben, I think this year really was, the past year was one where he realized, like, okay, I have to be careful who I open up to and who I trust. Now, Darcy, one of his roommates, he's known for a long time, and Keith, like, again, two great guys that are great friends. So that headline was really not exactly, I think.
And you got
fair.
a lot of conversations where there's Skyping going on with him and his sister, who's very influential in his career. You get some, really good moments there. I don't know if there's teaching moments where we say, the NCAA and the NBA need to look at the one and done, or LSU. I don't know if they indict themselves with how he was not a student there second semester for the most part. Hey, I'm going to get a 1.8. That's all I need to get. Stay eligible. He got suspended for one game because he missed a class. I don't even know.
4 minutes.
I don't even know if he went to class second semester. I don't know if he had to go to class second semester. That was the one question I had with this. The one and done is really embarrassing universities, or they embarrass themselves with this. And I don't know if this helps springboard a conversation, which is why I wanted to have you on. I thought it was that important with the one and done. Where are we headed with this? And is there another way that we can get kids to college? Maybe they stay 2 years. Or if you don't want to go to college, you don't go to college.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. You saw the president of the NCAA come out and say that he thinks that there's rules that need to be improved, and that this is really the one and done is not an NCAA rule; it's an NBA rule.
Yeah.
I hope it starts a conversation, but I hope any film or any story starts a conversation. You know, personally, in being able to observe the little bit that we did, I think that, you know, there could be things that are done to help prepare any student, let's say, for what their goal is. If I go into college and my goal is to become an accountant, well, I'm going to take certain classes that help me prepare for that. Ben Simmons went into school to become an NBA player. Everyone, like, that's what he went into school from. And in the documentary, I think there's clips from your show where that's what people were saying. Maybe there are things for those athletes.
Why not have classes that are catered to that? If that's your major, you major in it. Money management, real estate, picking, all of that. If you're going in, then
marketing, PR,
then nobody can blame. You can't blame anybody if you get out and then you don't have a career and you don't have a degree. You majored in, you're one and done, and this would maybe get those kids to stay and actually complete 1 year in college.
Well, and I think that look, there's two sides to the story as well. You know, I mean, to the argument as well. If you're saying I'm going to school for a year, then, you know, you have to live up to whatever that side of the contract is. Ben did look into what the rules were that he had to oblige by, and did, you know, and realized that, okay, I have to get this grade point average in the first semester and I'm eligible, and he did. So, but yeah, do I think there could have been classes that he would have been probably found more value in than maybe oceanography, or the class that he missed, which was how to study for college?
That was the class he missed?
Yeah.
Wow. By the way, Will Ferrell says, say hi to Maura for me.
Hello.
Ask her how mad ESPN got when I did Harry Carey.
Oh, my God.
The first ESPY.
We have to. That was the best.
Oh, my
that was
God.
the best.
That was painful. It was one of those so awkwardly funny. All right.
Yeah.
You did a great job on this.
Okay.
You should be proud.
On the doc?
Yeah, you did.
Or on this interview?
You did both.
Okay.
Yeah, you
I got Will
killed it.
Ferrell to email you.
Yeah, you did.
I know. How about that?
Maura Mandt, the co-director, producer, Ben Simmons documentary One and Done airs tonight on Showtime at 9 Eastern and Pacific. I think it's must-see TV. Great to see you.
Thank you, Dan.
20 after the hour, right here on The Dan Patrick Show.
Weekday mornings on Audience.